Coming up, it's Friday the 13th. Join us as we go back to 1980 and break down the original Friday the 13th. Stay tuned.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Don't let her live. I won't, Jason. I won't.
Welcome to the Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. I am your host, Arturo Padilla, and with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. Before we get started, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up, and that bell. That way you know when these videos are dropping. Happy Friday the 13th, Tex. How are you, buddy?
Howdy, everybody. Howdy, Arturo. Friday the 13th. It's been 46 years since the release of the OG Friday the 13th, and it's funny looking back on it now, right? You look back and you're like, oh, this movie's done so much for just the slasher genre, for as a movie itself, for the 80s, for horror. And when you look back on it and you watch it, you realize how small of a movie it is, but also kind of how unique it was to the time too. It's one of those things where, you don't put it into full perspective, until you actually sit there and watch it and you're like, oh, okay, if I'm sitting here tail end of the 70s, heading into the uncertain 80s, this is the future of horror kind of thing. You don't really watch it with all those eyes. You instead watch it with I'm just watching this movie, and it really holds up like as a movie in a lot of surprising ways. Of course, it doesn't always pass the time test, of like, there are some sensibilities that, are definitely not working here, in this original movie. There are some things where you're like, okay, that's stuff where you kind of have to write it off as of the time, right? But thankfully, there's so much of it that like just genuinely just works like as a movie and as a movie experience, even within even within our current year of the 2020s. And it's so interesting. Like, how do you feel, Arturo? How do you feel about
Yeah,
it? 40 years on,
listen, Friday the 13th is an iconic franchise. Iconic franchise known for Jason Voorhees, right? The guy with the hockey mask and the machete and all that stuff. But it starts from very simple beginnings. Like you said, it's a very
Mhm.
small scale movie here, with a small cast, right? One location,
Right.
and just a vision to try and scare the bejesus out of the audience, especially at that time. As Tex mentioned, we were coming right off the 70s, right into the beginning of the 80s here, where Halloween back in 1978 was the thing. That was the iconic horror piece. Back in 1978, when Halloween came out, you didn't have anything like that, until like prior to that was probably any Hitchcock stuff, especially with Psycho. But Carpenter in 78 did his thing. And in 1980, they set out to do something a little bit more different. In 78 in Halloween, you knew off the bat Michael Myers was the guy behind those eyes stalking, Laurie Strode behind the trees. Everyone knew it. We were just waiting to see the man do his work. Here in 1980 now, fast forward a couple of years, in Friday the 13th, we have no clue who the who this killer is. Even if you didn't see this originally growing up and you saw all the other Friday the 13th movies with Jason involved, you're kind of thinking, oh, it's Jason. And then as the movie progresses and the story unfolds, we get a whole different picture of what this killer is. And we don't know who this person is. The movie does a great job of kind of dropping little tidbits here and there to throw you off the scent. But ultimately, it's, as Tex mentioned, a very surprising small scale endeavor that meant a lot to an entire genre. It revolutionized the slasher. It is the slasher. It kind of born the slasher genre from what we know slashers today, right? Stalking,
Right.
killing teens who are promiscuous, doing drugs, partying too much. That is what the slasher genre kind of was. and
Yeah,
still is, you know?
yeah, we had serial killer movies before. You had your Psychos, you had your Texas Chainsaws, you had your Halloween, but this was it had a completely different approach. So jumping into things, we have Camp Crystal Lake. It's opening years before. There was a boy that drowned, and then counselors were killed the year after that boy was drowning, which is a very important detail for this setup. And then here we are years later. This camp is now reopening, and we have a group of 5 or 6 counselors coming the week before it opens to kind of get the camp ready for all the kids
Mhm.
that are about to show up. And then from there, a series of murders happen, and that's pretty much the whole basis of Friday the 13th, and that's pretty much it. And from then on, it's just pure 85 to 90 minutes of just waiting for the kills to happen. They start happening, and then here we go, here's the work.
Mhm.
But I guess looking back on it, there's it's got the issue with the 70s movie pacing. It's the stuff where you try to you try to rewatch these movies from the time, and a common classic I like to point to, or like in the 80s, I think was also Family Guy made a joke about this, like with Stripes, where it's like, yeah, can't wait for them to get to the get to the military and kind of do wacky stuff, right? But then the intro is like 15 minutes of just nothing really happening. And that's kind of, I think, opening with Friday the 13th, that's kind of the issue here too. It's like
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time with these teens being teens, and you're like, yeah, that's cool and all, but it's you get the feeling that yes, it's to establish them as characters, but then they're kind of just like jerk teens who are really just have like giant targets painted on them. But thankfully, that's not where all the attention is played. There's a lot of attention paid to like smaller details that you wouldn't actually think of either, right? Like there's like little moody atmospheric things that you catch with like the 2020s eye that I didn't expect before.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But this is to your point about the 70s pacing, right?
Mhm.
Because it takes that a low and slow approach, it does benefit from that pacing in order to add all these little details, right?
Right.
That time is taken to kind of fill up this universe with whatever it is that they can add in order to help us understand a bit better what the hell's going on here, right?
Yeah.
So as we were saying before, this is where things start changing in horror, in the genre of horror and film, in terms of how things are put together and
Yeah.
how things are thrown at the audience. So now we're doing a lot of POV shots, a heck of a lot more than we ever had in Halloween, right? And here in this POV, we have no idea whose POV it is, but we're lurking, we're stalking, we're hunting all throughout the movie. And the camera does a great job of being this character, right? So there's a lot of camera work involved where the camera is the person you are looking at, and the camera is the one pretty much kind of showing you where the action is and what to actually look at with your eyes. And I think they do a very good job of using those film techniques to its complete benefit, especially with the small budget they had to work with here in Friday the 13th. And it works. It works a lot because it's super effective when you have the camera lurking behind the trees. You don't know who it is. It's looking at a pair or somebody down in the distance, right? And then it takes a shot of the teens and maybe, hey, did I just see something over there?
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
you know? So I really like the fact that they do a lot of camera play in this movie and it works completely well. And obviously, it's a budget thing because if you use that instead of having to do all these different kinds of shots where you're showing your antagonist everywhere, it ruins the fun, right? And also, it kind of cuts the budget down, especially since you already have a camera already and you're doing the work there. So it also makes it easier for the audience to kind of get in the shoes of whoever it is lurking behind that tree. Because as I said before, they do a great job of sprinkling little things to throw you off the main scent of who the killer is. So the camera work adds to that. And speaking of little details here, they actually do a decent job of showing us, that these teens are just there kind of setting everything up. We get to know them a little bit. They are a rowdy bunch, a promiscuous bunch, a target, as Tex perfectly put it. And that is exactly what this slasher genre in horror sets up. What is the target of this world? It
Right,
is
right.
a rowdy, promiscuous teen who shouldn't be here at all because screw you guys. That's pretty
Yeah,
much what it is.
it is funny because you look back on it and you're like, oh, okay, you can kind of see where, horror has a big thing where like it punishes people, right? Like it's supposed to, that's the whole thing, is like you get punished for your sin, right? And that is especially true here. This is where like I feel it started to really get into the slasher genre, and where slashers started to take shape, where we get a lot of copycats in the years since of like, yeah,
Oh yeah.
just killing teens for no reason, right? But here, it's funny looking back and you see that, no, like they are killed because of that debauchery. And it's funny looking through that lens and through that vision, especially when you know the entire story of the Friday
Yes.
the 13th ahead of time. And
Yes.
you watch that, you're rewatching that with that in mind, and you're like, no, okay, so they really are being punished for being teens who have gone off the path.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
it puts like it puts this entire other kind of messaging on the film that, you know, is intentional. That's the thing, right? This is all entirely intentional, because you get to the end, and we can just go ahead and say this outright completely, like, oh,
Yeah.
spoilers for a 40 something year old movie, that it turns out that the kid who died years before was a kid named Jason. And the movie, like, through the movie, you get the idea, oh, is it maybe Jason coming back for his revenge kind of thing? And no, it's his mother taking revenge for the fact that debaucherous kids led to the death of her son years
Yeah.
before.
Mhm.
And because they're reopening this camp, she's like, yo, you can't open this camp. I lost my son here. I'm going to kill all these kids to make sure this doesn't open. And so it adds this cool layer of just punishment. I love me a karmic punishment. I love me, like, in horror, I love when characters who are jerks pay for what they've done. And unfortunately, as much as I'm like, oh, they're innocent teens who've done no wrong, they're just doing teen stuff, right? But they also don't really help themselves in that regard, because they are kind of also jerk teens. Like they
Yeah.
really are. They really are just like a group of jerks, especially the dudes, right? But like,
The dudes are definitely jerks, but I wouldn't classify them overall as jerk teens. Like, I think as we get further into the franchise,
right.
the teens become a little bit more
They
shrewder, a
they
bit
do
more
amp that up more,
problematic.
right?
Yes,
They do
absolutely.
they
In
they
this
do
first
start to
one,
lean into that.
it's just so happened that you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah,
You know?
they're regular jerk teens.
Yeah,
They're not like they're not especially problematic teens. I mean, yes, problematic in 2020 terms, yes, in terms of what they do, but like not like in 1980s terms, no, they're not harming anyone, like anyone
correct.
else generally,
Correct.
right?
So,
And
yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing. And so you get, like, yes, it's punishment, but most importantly, it's vengeance. And that is the core of this Friday the 13th experience. And that's also what makes it so unique, like rewatching it after all this time, because you're like, oh, it's a layer of punishment, but it's a layer of vengeance too. So you're seeing these vengeful kills. And a part of the budget thing that Arturo was talking about was that we also don't get a lot of kills on screen, but the kills we do get are brutal.
Yeah.
Like the neck slice after
Yeah.
being chased in the forest, cool visual. I really love that after all this time. The arrow through the neck, most iconic kill from Friday the 13th, and it's with an arrow through the neck. And you think, oh, we've seen more creative kills in the decade since or whatever, but no, like, like, when you look at it, you're like, no, it's, you slowly watch it get pushed up, right? And you
Yeah, it's pretty
slowly see
awesome.
you
Yeah.
see Kevin Bacon, poor Kevin Bacon, like, it's funny seeing how many movies he's been in. It's one of those things, right, where you're like, oh, Kevin Bacon's here, right? And but but yeah, you see
You got to
the
start off
arrow.
somewhere, just like Johnny Depp did in Nightmare on Elm Street. So,
Yes, it's like you kind of remember that Kevin Bacon's been in the business for a long time, and you see the arrow come up slowly, and they make sure to like really emphasize that it's peeking out, like it goes all, and it's brutal, but you don't get any of the other kills really, which is a shame,
yeah,
right?
you get
But
the aftermath,
yeah,
um, which is fine though. Like, again, if we go back to 1980, right? This
right,
would have been like, holy shit, you know what I mean? This is
yeah,
hardcore,
yeah,
brutal gore stuff. Now in 2026, let's see a little bit more action. But
right.
going back to 1980, I think what we get in this movie is pretty awesome. Like
I
Tex
agree.
mentioned, you
Yeah,
do get some very unexpected full kills on screen, like Annie's kill, where she gets her throat sliced, and then you get the Kevin Bacon one, where you get the arrowhead through the neck, and those are shown right in front of the screen, without the shot cutting away, which is pretty awesome, and a testament to the practical department that worked on
yeah,
this movie, man. Also, when you do get the aftermath of stuff, it's still pretty cool
yeah.
looking
It's
kind of
brutal. Like
practical stuff.
that
Yeah,
one
we
kid
yeah,
that one kid hung up straight up hung by like the doorway, and it's like, like he's been like
yeah.
basically he's been gutted, and it's like it's one of those things too where like because the low budget's there, it's like, oh, your imagination kind of fills in even more, right? And you're like, yes, this is the appeal of that original Friday the 13th. And there's so much like, and it is interesting thinking years later of what kind of direction they decide to take with this, because this one is such like a movie built on a mother's revenge, and it's
Yeah.
so specifically motherhood, right? Like this is like a
Yeah.
female horror kind
I
of
mean,
thing,
listen,
right?
like if you break down the core of the story itself, right? It's this mother who wants justice for the negligence of this camp, not
Yeah,
protecting the children who were swimming because they were busy fornicating or doing drugs or whatever other things that had them distracted. So this is her way of kind of finding peace, and justice, which is, hey, this camp should never have existed after my son was forgotten about and after he died here and after he died for no good reason, because if someone was doing their job like a lifeguard or something, they could have easily have saved them, but
Y-
you guys decided to come back the next year, you know what I
oh
mean? So
yeah.
now, yeah,
And then on top of that, Arturo, it's not even like, apparently, right? Like one of the weirdest details in the story is that, what was it? He dies in the 50s, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
Jason dies in the 50s, and then like the year after, the counselors who watched him are killed, right?
mhm.
And then they reopen this, what, like in the late 70s to 80s. So there's
Yeah,
like
like
a
20
20
years
year
later
gap.
pretty much, yeah.
Yes, yes. What a weird detail, Arturo. What a
Yeah,
weird
but you know
thing.
what though? Like she still obviously hasn't found that inner peace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like imagine upon hearing, "Oh, so and so have bought the property on Camp Crystal Lake and plan on opening it up again." Like she'd be outraged. Like, "Are you kidding me?" After all the nonsense that happened, and the fact that even after she killed those first two counselors in the beginning of the movie, that mystery was never solved.
Yeah.
So it's still like a cold case, and she's like furious that I killed these people and they're still gonna bother opening this camp up. You know what? They haven't learned their lesson. So one by one, they keep dropping. She hunts them down. She stalks them. She does like she's like Dog the Bounty Hunter, dude. She is doing all the work. She's picking up Annie in the beginning at like a hitchhiker. She's picking up, the creepy dude with the mustache, the guy who actually bought the camp. Like she's doing the work here of a vengeful mother trying to prove her point. It's like, hey, this camp is not going to open while I'm alive, right? Because you guys messed up and I am going to keep blaming you guys. And if you guys watch towards the third act, she is definitely crazy. she
Yeah, that's the
she is
thing.
definitely a
She's
little unhinged because she's looking at Alice, who had nothing to do with her son's death, and blaming her specifically. It was your fault. It was your fault. So obviously, that this woman has not found any kind of peace whatsoever with the death of her child here.
yeah, it's one of those things too, like in retrospect, it's a final battle against an old lady, right? But then you see what Jason himself has turned into, and you go back to the first film, and it's an old lady doing stealth kills,
But
right? You're
listen,
like,
listen.
she's sneaking around this camp and killing these teens one by
Yes,
one
an
in these
old
kinds of
lady,
ways
but
where
a vengeful mother Tex. Have you
yeah.
heard that, like, if a baby's in danger, a mother gets this Hulk strength to, like, lift the
Right,
car up, you know what I mean?
right,
So
but
she's been living with this, like, vengeful mother Hulk strength for, like, 20
right, but
years.
I'm not
That's
gonna
the
I'm not gonna
only
sit
way I
here.
can that's
I'm
listen, that's the only way I can explain her
no,
because
I'm
it's
not
like
gonna no, no, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend she got mutant powers from her rage, right?
dude,
Like,
that is
no,
the only way I can
no.
explain her.
This is the reason why so many of these kills are done like through quiet and sneaking around, and
Yes.
why the arrow in the neck is like from under the bed, and why the slash in the neck comes after she chases her down in the forest kind of thing. And it's like it's so funny, right? Because you think physicality, and there's just not a lot, because when she finally
Yes.
has to fight against, like, she finally fights against Alice, she loses. She gets bodied because she's an old
Because
woman.
she's an
Like,
old lady.
yeah, and it's it's hilarious, right? Like, it's just
Yes.
like you
Dude,
watch this
yo,
and you're like,
uh,
this
yes.
is such a wild decision to put in this movie. Like, right? You're like,
Yes.
yes, like, it's one thing to be like, oh, this is just a random killer killing teens in a camp, right? It's another thing to be like, no, this is a vengeful mother killing teens in a camp. And then, because it's like, one, you put this reveal in there in the first place, right? Like, they thought to write this into the movie as like that they needed a big reveal. And secondly, it's an old lady, right? You're like, it's they've been like, as soon as the old lady had to throw hands at, like,
Yeah.
she lost. Like, it's just it's
Like,
funny, dude. It
dude,
really
oh
is.
my god. I thought the exact same thing watching that entire last fight there, or the final battle boss.
Yeah.
And dude, it was honestly very comical. And I'm glad you brought up the fact that this is why a lot of it is shown through POV
Yeah.
and non full third person shots, because it would not be believable at
Yeah.
all. And
Because
it, and
you
it
would
shows. It
yeah.
shows when she's
Yeah.
going against Alice, and I'm like, oh, why couldn't the dudes do this?
It's because she snuck up on them in the middle of the night,
Yes,
and they were not aware of anything that was happening, and
exactly.
that's
Yep,
the whole thing. It's
yep.
so hilarious, right? That you see, like, not even needed to get into this yet, but it's like all the Friday the 13th to come, right? You see all those kills and all those movies are so much about, like, physicality. And
Yeah.
some of Jason's most famous kills are like when he's like whacking people against trees, and like, and what was it? Just
Crushing people's heads, stepping on
yes,
people's faces, whacking
yes,
people with like sleeping bags, like you said,
yeah,
like pretty
and
much
like,
like flinging people like projectiles.
at the machete drop, right? Like, the
Yes.
machete's not even a thing in this one. No machete, right? And because she,
Well, well, she does have one. She does bring one out, but she's very much easily thwarted when Alice
yeah,
takes like
I was
a
like, by the
paddle
time
and
she
it
uses it, right? Yeah,
just kind of like slaps her. She's like, oh.
yeah, she finally when she finally uses it, it's yeah, it's because before that you get an axe, there's an arrow, there's knives. Like, it's just it's so funny. You see what Jason turned into, but when you go back to this OG one, you're like, it's an old lady who was using tricks and cunning until
And
she
mother
had to throw
strength.
yeah, until she had to throw hands, and all of a sudden you're like, that's an old lady. Push
Dude,
her
when her and
down.
Alice were like rolling around on the like on the beach in the sand, Alice was like, "Get off me!" And I'm
Yeah,
like, "You see, that's all you got to do."
yeah, just push her down, right? Like, push her down, she'll break her hip, and it'll be all set and done, right? Because that's the thing. Like, it's not even that she was like older, right? There's a difference between being like older, your 30s, your
Yes.
70s, 80s adult, which would be like you're 30. in the 70s and you're 30, you're dead, right? Like,
Yeah, 30,
but
40, yeah, you're super old, right?
yes, but this is 20 years after like they reopened the camp. So and they deliberately costumed her to make her look as old as possible too.
It's grandma, bro.
Yeah, straight
The
but
grandma
yeah, straight
Voorhees, man.
yeah, straight up Betsy Palmer, like she was Mrs. Voorhees too. So they straight up did everything to make sure that this was an old lady that she read as old. And as soon as she had to throw hands, it was like, no, break her hip, push her down, get out of the way. And that's what happens. That's ultimately what happens. That's how Alice like survives at the end of the day.
And then what's awesome too is that final shot of Betsy Palmer screaming as Alice just takes her freaking head off with one whack of the machete, and then they
Yeah.
show the whole thing, which I
Yes.
thought was absolutely brilliant, and it looks really good. I was
Yeah.
surprised. I was like, "Holy crap, that looks really awesome!"
And that's
And
the
like you
thing,
see the
right?
blood spurting, you see like neck section, like
Yeah,
bone,
no,
like
it's a
really well
good
done
thing, right?
prosthetic. Yeah.
It's like save your brutality for when you need it. And it was
Mhm.
clearly like, okay, get this old lady
Yeah,
out
I
of
was like,
here.
"Listen, that's the money shot right there." I literally
Yeah,
said that out loud. That's the money shot.
yeah, that's the look we've been waiting for.
Yes.
Maury Ballstein Zoolander kind of thing. It's the
That's great.
Magnum. It's Magnum, but like it's love
Oh,
Zoolander. But
man.
yeah, this is all to say, like 40 years later, man, like Friday the 13th, as a movie, like it really still holds up. Check it out on Pluto. Absolutely free. Like
Yeah.
you can watch ads, you'll be fine.
Free
There's not that
the
many.
ads are just like one ad pretty much. It's not even terrible, man.
Yeah, it's like
Definitely.
watching it. It's watching it on TV. It really is. Like It's like you're watching it on AMC or something, and like during Fear Fest, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's a commercial every now and again.
But Tex, speaking of TV, A24 is officially bringing back this whole franchise under Crystal Lake, under the name Crystal Lake. Um,
Yeah,
uh, and it's supposed to be streaming later this year on Peacock.
yeah.
And it follows Mrs. Voorhees and I guess her adventures leading up to the original, I'm thinking, right? Like
Yeah,
just
I'm
showing her kind
guessing.
of kill off.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're gonna see her kill like the counselors again. Just like just as it's said in this movie and all that. But honestly, I have no idea because like Mrs. Voorhees, she's only interesting because of like the context we get her in. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense, right? It's only hilarious, like it's only interesting because it's a surprise reveal at the end of this
Yeah.
movie,
That's a
right?
great
Like
point.
it's not necessarily something I don't know about you, Arturo, but I've never once sat here and thought about, oh, I wonder what turned her that way.
No, but
You
oh,
kind of get it. Her kid
remember what
died.
happened to a movie we recently watched, The Strangers, chapter 1, 2, and 3,
Right, where
where
it's
they
like
went
as soon
back
as
and they try to like
yeah,
establish the psyche of these killers and
it
how they
doesn't
all
it doesn't
happen.
work. It doesn't work with everybody,
Doesn't
right?
work.
You
I mean,
don't she
one
lost
time
her
it,
son and that drove her off the end, right? And that
yes,
kind of like that kind of seems like bing bang boom,
you know
call
what?
it or
Like one time it did actually work though in like TV series form.
mhm,
Um, was the Bates Motel where they went back to
right.
early on Norman Bates and his mother when the mother was still alive. That was actually super interesting and done very well. But again, we've gone on our soapbox here at the morgue saying that when you try to break down these killers, right? It doesn't really end up too well for the
Yeah.
story. It doesn't end up too well for the overall package. Now, Tex mentioned, and I wholeheartedly agree, like, are we really interested in knowing that now Mrs. Voorhees here, who we know is the killer, right? She's just like gonna be doing stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they're gonna accomplish with this
Yeah,
because
it's
it's like in the movie itself, she kills 2 counselors in the beginning,
yeah.
right? And then the whole thing closes down, right? But there's no mention of other killings in the middle or anything
Yeah,
like that
because
either,
because it's not
right?
that's the thing. It's not necessary and it's unwanted. Like it's unneeded. Like that's what I mean. Like there's no to me, there's no story. So
Yeah.
if they found a story, I'm curious to see what that is. But like I said, the only reason Mrs. Voorhees is interesting is because it's a surprise reveal at the end of this one. Like
Yeah.
it's the fact that
It's
it's
his
revealed that
mother.
yeah, that's the only reason. It's like what's that one like
Which one? Sleepaway Camp?
yes, that's exactly. Oh my
Yeah,
god, that's exactly what I was thinking of, Arturo.
that's the
Like
infamous one. I knew exactly
it's
where
like
I knew
sleepwalk.
exactly where you were going, Tex.
Yeah, where the only reason you remember it,
Is the reveal.
it's because it had a wild reveal, right? And yeah, and these days, not necessarily the wildest reveal. We can. I don't want to dig into that, but it's also like a, yeah, it's the only reason you remember it, and that's kind of like with Friday the 13th, where it's like it is funny that they put all this effort into it, but as a one-off, great movie, still
Yeah.
holds up, still moody and atmospheric, still good. It still has good kills, has good fun ending, a fun doom ending, which I love too. So go check it out on Pluto. Go check it out
Yeah.
more so because it's been 17 years since like a Friday the 13th has been on theater screens
Yeah.
with the 2009 one. Oh
Mhm.
my god, it's been 17 years since 2009.
That's a little crazy, but also, like, wouldn't you think I am listen, I'm an optimist when it comes to the horror genre because I hope and pray for better days, right?
Right.
And with this franchise now being picked up by A24, I am hoping that they're trying to maybe I'm thinking too much here, but or big braining as they say, maybe they're trying to establish a new starting point for the franchise here and they can offshoot to like, hey, let's reboot Jason all the way on the screen as an A24 movie. I don't know. I'm being hopeful here, Tex, because
Yeah.
like you have this franchise that hasn't been on TV since forever. The last time Friday the 13th was actually on TV was like an anthology show about different kinds of like kills or thrills or whatever. It wasn't even
Yeah,
like
it's
about
just
Jason.
no.
So,
And yeah.
the fact now that you have a TV show specifically about Mrs. Voorhees and about whatever adventures, if you want to call it that, she's going through, it is a little concerning, but it is in the hands of a capable studio. I do wish though, instead of spending all this effort on a freaking TV show, man, just reboot the thing and put it back in theaters. You know what I
They've
mean?
tried. They've tried. Remember, like
And
they've tried and failed for whatever reason. But found footage one would have been cool. That one idea that was floating around back in the two
yeah,
thousands
yeah.
of
But you
a
know what though, Tex? But this is why, like, this one is the main difference maker, right? Because
yeah,
Friday the 13th, you have the mother as the killer. So the only way to really top that over and over and over again is just getting more and more and more kills and crazier kills and more wilder kills. And this is where the franchise decided to go because it's like, hey, we can't really top this narrative wise because this is it, right?
yeah,
Like exposing the mother as the killer. Like this is like cinema. You know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right.
so where are we gonna go from here? Body count.
Who knows?
So yeah,
Who knows?
right.
Who
But yeah,
knows?
folks, the entire franchise is over on Pluto TV. Go catch them one by one. They're pretty uncensored from what I've seen. I didn't see
Yeah,
any kind of real
I don't.
censorship on there.
Yeah,
But I'm glad that they're available for free because we've been looking for them for a while, and I'm glad Pluto TV has them. I do wish they'd be on a different platform with a little bit more quality to them,
right.
because a lot of these movies are shot really dark, especially this first one. And I don't live in a movie theater, so it's really tough to kind of get a good look at this stuff because it's so dark. But go catch them on Pluto TV. This first one is really something special, and it's hard to replicate. So we are curious here at the Morgue as to what we're gonna get with a TV show, because who really knows, right? And all that said, folks, thank you so much for listening. This has been The Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. I am your host, Arturo Padilla, and with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. A big shout out goes to you guys for listening and for watching. Remember, we have all these videos on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcast streams. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and leave us a review if you can. Lastly, a big shout out goes to Delvirus for all the artwork you've seen in front of you throughout the years. And always remember, folks, it is a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.